We're talking about mutually beneficial partnerships. Welcome to the Scotch Money Show. Hold on, I don't have a guitar, so we're doing a cappella. Welcome to the Scotch Money Show. With your friends Dimitri and Brian, no Hunter, talking about the things you want to know. And I bet you wanted to know about mutually beneficial partnerships. Oh, yeah. So we're gonna tell you about it. Home slice, Scotch Money Show. And welcome to the Scotch Money Show with your friend Dimitri and your friend Brian. Brian, say hi. Today, we are going to be talking about mutually beneficial partnerships that we all like. Why? Because they're mutual and beneficial to everybody. So before we do that, smash that subscribe button and like it and tweet it and twat about it. Twitter twat? What? Are we on the Instagram? Gram it? How do you gram on the Instagram? How do you gram? I've never used it, allegedly. Today we're going to be talking about mutually beneficial partnerships. Mutually beneficial partnerships go very much in line with structure and with all other things that we have talked about. But we wanted to talk about it. So we're missing Hunter today because he's busy. And Brian recently had a baby. Not him, his wife. Talk about your baby.
I haven't been sleeping. She's so cute. You know how people look at babies and say they're so cute? Oh my God. Now I get it. When you look at your own baby, you're just like, it's incredible. You pay so much attention to every detail, and everything is fascinating. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if she's just opening her hands or, just looking at you funny. It's fascinating.
Totally. It's a game changer.
And like when I wasn't a parent, I didn't get it. I was like, yeah, the baby's cute. I can appreciate it, but I didn't realize that there was that much level of attention that you pay it to the baby. Like you're so focused, like you can't even help but not, you can't not be focused on it. Like your body just automatically like just cancels out everything else. It's crazy.
It's one of those things that you can't really understand until you're in it and you're in the thick of it. Like it's not something that you can explain to someone who doesn't have kids, like many other things. It's an experience, game-changing experience, and it makes, well, we'll be talking on the next Scotch Money about something tying into that. But on this Scotch Money, we're talking about mutually beneficial partnerships in business, in life, and getting into that.
Yeah, it ties nicely in with our last topic on negotiations, because negotiations are all about finding the benefit for each party.
And I think one of the things that I said, and I'll say it again, is look, there needs to be mutual benefit for a partnership to work out. It must be. If you don't have mutual benefit, you're going to have issues because one side's going to feel like they're not getting something, and the other side's going to feel like they're not getting something, or that maybe someone's looking over into the other, onto someone else's plate and saying, oh, maybe I should have ordered that. It's a matter of a mutually beneficial partnership. The strongest partnership, I believe, stems from need. You need something, I need something, we all need something to achieve whatever we're trying to achieve. So if we're going to do so effectively, we're going to form partnerships that are mutually beneficial.
One of the most surprising things that I heard recently, um, and I know it's not uncommon to think this way, but a friend of mine was saying that uh, somebody was negotiating with him, and he said that for people to come out of a negotiation well, everybody must be unhappy. And I was like, that's a terrible way to live.
Everyone must be unhappy.
Yeah, like you've made the right um, compromises if you come out of a negotiation with everybody unhappy.
I see where he's coming from in the sense that I think what he was trying to say, and maybe when you talk to him and offline, tell me who it is because I'm curious, not here online. Mr. X. Tell Mr. X that I think what he's trying to say is that as long as both sides feel that they're on equal, so if both sides are happy, great. If both sides are unhappy, great. But if one side's happy and the other side's unhappy, problems. Do you think maybe that's what he was trying to say?
Yeah, that makes sense, but he's also the coercive type of negotiator, where he would kind of beat you down.
Do I know this person?
Yeah, you do.
Is it someone that I?
You haven't negotiated with him.
Okay. Either way, it boils down to like, so right now we're negotiating. We're buying real estate. No surprise. Orange County real estate developers? What? No way. It's almost like we're sitting in fancy country clubs and libraries talking about real estate. Not me. I'm in a sanitarium. No, we're buying real estate, industrial real estate in the Northeast, and we bought 55,000 square foot building. We're buying another building right now, as we do, and we want to buy what 2 million square feet in that area in the next couple of years, roughly. Well, we have an expansion plan to do so internally. That's good. You'll see why I'm getting to this. We're recently talking to a large tenant potential, and whether it goes through or not, it doesn't matter. We're talking to several. And then, of course, we have a good tenant base already. But those mutually beneficial partnerships happen because, in this case, they want to expand into that area. We want to expand into that area. We're going to do it. They're going to do it. There's need because there's capital need, and then there's partnership need to more effectively and efficiently use your capital. The alternative is trying to do it all yourself, which is inefficient and ineffective because then you have other folks that are operating on a more efficient basis that will outperform you, and then you will end up well falling behind. And falling behind in business is a problem.
And by efficiency, I think it makes sense to qualify that on what specifically we mean about efficiency as it pertains to mutual beneficial partnerships. And I feel it's the divide and conquer approach, where you segment the things that would be most beneficial for each party to do. And you do just those things without bleeding into the other party's responsibilities, needs, and desires. And if you do it that way, you'd be able to optimize, everything from capital to resources.
Absolutely. There's operational benefit because of division of labor. I mean, you're good at one thing, I'm good at another thing, other people are good at other things. You do division of labor and you operate in joint ventures in individual deals as a cohesive unit. But there's financial benefit as well. And it's funny because like one of the most common questions that I get from people that just don't understand the basic principles of finance. And one of the reasons why I wanted to actually do what I was pushing to do this video is to explain this simple concept. This one right here that I'm about to explain. Listen to me, about to explain it. I'm gonna do it. Are you ready? Are you ready to hear it? Okay. Are you sure? Here it is. When you're looking at why would somebody lease a building as opposed to just buying a building? Well, what if somebody's going to be spending X amount of dollars per month? Why not buy the building? Why lease it on a commercial space? And you're spending, let's say, we just bought a 55,000 square foot building. I'll talk about it. Dollar a square foot, let's say, hypothetically, 55,000 square feet. Why would someone spend $55,000 a month leasing an industrial building when they could buy it? Because everybody raises capital. Everybody puts together capital sources from other people. No one's using just their own money. You're using relationships, mutually beneficial partnerships, which is a whole nother story. But not all capital is equal. And we've talked about that before. We've talked about how debt is cheaper than equity, and then there are preferred equity positions, etc. Let's say you raise capital from X investor, whatever it is, or X partner, and your marginal return in your operating company is somewhere around, let's say, 30% annually. But you can lease a building as opposed to buying, and the return to that investor who you're leasing from is around, let's say, 20%. Just keep it simple, 20 and 30. If you use money from your investor, it would be 30%, meaning it's more expensive than the 20% effectively that you're paying this guy, right? It makes more sense. If the number was flipped, as in you have such cheap capital that you can buy and it's more effective financially than it is to lease, then you should lease or you should buy. It take all emotion out of it, and you see that if you're making 30% every year and you're pro rata sending that out to your investors, and you can lease for less, and then it's cheaper for you to lease than it is to buy, you should lease. And I know guys with big companies that have massive buildings, giant high rises, and you're like, well, why wouldn't they buy that? They're leasing it. And they had options. I've had conversations with buddies of mine that they've had options to buy big buildings, but they lease because it makes
the people
more
who
sense.
usually ask those questions are more accustomed to purchasing their own like rental properties or like their personal residences, in which cases they wouldn't be using external investors, and they'd be essentially using their own money to make more money. They'd be the investor. So as the investor, you would want to maximize your return by doing it that way.
Totally.
But if you're using investors and managing investor money, then you have to be very objective about it and actually segment where the capital is going.
Absolutely.
For
you need to,
like, how much was this building, the 55,000 square foot building?
we got it. Well, in that particular case, we got it for what, 1.25 million, but our entire basis in it was what, 2.2?
Yeah.
2.2.
So essentially, we're charging $1 per month. So that's $660,000 a year for the operator, essentially. And
about 25%.
Yeah. And if the operator bought that money, I mean that property using his investor capital, and because he's a cannabis operator, his investors expect at least a 1x return, meaning 100% cap rate, and then his yearly would be 1.25 million. It's a giant difference between paying 660,000 versus 1.25 million a year for the same property.
Yeah. And that doesn't even count. That doesn't even count reserves that you have to have in place. Look, running real estate has its own operation, and people who don't understand that you have to have reserves in place, it's kind of like the way I always like to look at it is, you in your own personal life, everybody has the oh shit fund, right? The money that they have stashed away, the money that they have stashed away in case they need it for some reason, right? The reserves, your life reserves. You should have that on a project by project basis. It's a smart idea to do, because you never know when something will happen unexpectedly that you have to reposition the asset. And whether you're an operator or you're a real estate developer, it's always more expensive than just the cost of the building. And I think one of the ways to relate that to maybe the average individual would be, how when you buy a house, and let's assume most people are buying houses. A lot of people understand at least the need to buy a house, or their parents bought a house or whatever. You buy a house, but then you're going to have to change it. You have to fix things up. You're going to have to, there's always something. There's always some expense to owning a house, right? There's always something when it comes to a commercial property that needs to be managed effectively. And if you don't have the capital to do so, then you're pulling from your future. And if you're pulling from your future or levering up, well, then you're risking your existing asset, right?
But that's essentially how people would normally live if you're living paycheck to paycheck. That you would.
We're investors, damn it.
Exactly, but it is a different mindset.
Absolutely.
If you're talking to somebody who has a 9 to 5 job, and they're taking a salary, they would be purchasing an asset and then essentially levering up on it when they start improving their houses or when they start doing maintenance. But the thing is, it's as if you did all of that, but you planned ahead, as if you knew exactly what you were going to change, as if you knew exactly what improvements you were going to put in, and as if you were prepared for the there's going to be an earthquake or a fire or something else catastrophic, and you bundle that all in upfront.
And on top of all of that bundling, the whole plan, you also say, you know what? I don't know. Maybe something unexpected will happen, and who knows how expensive it will be, but we should probably have something for it. Yeah. And can you plan for the unplannable? No. But what you can do is prepare yourself to be able to have the resources, the time and the money to be able to reposition yourself in a bad situation.
Yeah. You can never know for sure because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. There's no crystal ball where you could tell the future, but it's a lot better to have a reserve than to not have a reserve. Even if you say you can't plan for the future, let's just put an inordinate amount of money onto this. The budget's going to go through the roof if you prepare for everything. So there's this balance that you have to figure out. What's okay to prepare for and what's kind of ridiculous to prepare for. And then you make that the budget. The whole job, our entire job in positioning and preparing deals is in this preparation.
And when you're talking about mutually beneficial partnerships, it really boils down to, look, you explain your need. I just got out. The reason I'm here instead of at my usual Scotch Money location is because I just got out of a meeting, and we're talking about mutual benefit in a partnership. This particular guy, his company, he operates here in California and in Colorado, in using industrial and agricultural space in the cannabis industry. And I said, okay, that's fine. We're operating up in Massachusetts, or we're purchasing assets up in Massachusetts. We're expanding out into Michigan. We're expanding out into Pennsylvania and New York. Those are the markets that we see value in. And we see, not New York City, New York State. And I said, well, look, here's what we need. What do you need? And I explained our directive is very well defined. We know that we want to purchase on a large scale in these states. We know that we want to purchase X amount. I'm not going to say, because depending on the state, you have to be able to adjust. We know that we want to buy, between 2 and 2.5 million square feet in these 4 states. But that's a long-term expansion plan. In the shorter term, we know that we just purchased 55,000 square feet. Now we're purchasing another 120. We're going to purchase more. Then we'll expand into other states. And we know that what we need is a tenant base. Not just the same tenant. We have several different tenants, and we have very good tenants. But there's always a need for more partnerships that are mutually beneficial. So I said, look, if you guys are interested in expanding out there, well, you let me know. And we know each other. We've seen each other around, in the Newport Beach community. It's a small community. And he said, well, let me talk to my partners and we're going to get back to you. Fantastic. It's a matter of expressing, and I feel like nowadays it's a matter of really just transparently saying, look, here's what I need. What do you need? Okay, can you help me with what I need? Can I help you with what you need? Done, easy. The conversation doesn't need to be drawn out and wasteful.
I think that's the key to having a mutually beneficial partnership, is for people to express what they need help with, because it's incredibly vulnerable to say, hey, I need help with this. Like you're opening yourself up to that, and I think for people to be able to do well in relationships, you have to be able to express those things that maybe the person you're talking to can't help you, but if they can, at least they know what they can help you with. And I think there are people from different cultures that come from the mindsets that if you express what you need help with, people can stab you and use that against you. And I've met a lot of guarded people, and like rightfully so. They come from cultures that would jump at the opportunity to stab you in the back. But I think in this country, in this environment, so long as you have the right infrastructure around you, and people who are supportive and willing to actually open up and talk about what they need, then these mutually beneficial partnerships are generally easy to find.
I think starting off any relationship based on fear that the other person's going to screw you over is not the best. I don't operate based on fear. And there have been folks in my business career that think that they can threaten me in ways, and that's happened, whether it's physical ways or financial ways, or however it is that they choose in negotiations or whatever it is. They try to use fear to get what they want. But I'll tell you this, and I was talking to a friend of mine just the other day about this. Fear is not a strong motivator in the long term. And so I'll give you a good example. So I have recently, I still fly, but I've developed kind of a fear of flying. It's weird. Whenever I get on a plane, I get anxious, and it's strange. Brian, because we were flying.
Yeah. I thought that was a one-off thing.
No, it's weird. It's a recent thing. But every time I fly, and I still fly all the time, what happens is I get on the plane and I tell myself, this is the time you're going to die, Dimitri. You're done. It sucks. Damn it. This is going to be the worst way to die. Oh, well, screw it. And then I let it go. And then I fly. And then I'm fine. And I land, I do my thing. In a negotiation, when structuring a mutually beneficial partnership, if you structure it based on fear, you will not be successful because fear runs out. At some point, you're going to grow accustomed
Exactly.
to that fear, and you'll be like, all right, whatever, I don't care anymore if I'm going to die on this plane because I'm already in the air. It's too late. I can't get off now. And so you're going to live. And then you're going to say, well, wait a minute, hold on. In a partnership scenario, if there isn't mutual benefit, you're going to say, wait a minute, this is bullshit. Why did I get into this thing? And then you're unhappy. And if you're unhappy, you're going to look for ways to weasel out of a partnership. And if you're looking for ways to weasel out of a partnership, I don't care how good the contracts are. The only people that will benefit in that type of scenario are attorneys.
Yeah.
So you don't want to start like you should not start a partnership based on fear, and it's not a good motivator. You start a partnership based on need.
Yeah. I mean, I work incredibly hard to take, during conversations, to just take the fear, the uncertainty, and the distress out of the conversation. To just, but I'm still trying to work on it. I'm still trying to work on finding ways to get people out of that hole, because sometimes it's ingrained, and sometimes just giving people logical arguments to pull people out don't help them, and it's an ongoing struggle for me to find ways to help people in that way.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why we have these kinds of conversations. Anyone who's smashing the subscribe button and pounding the like button, pounding it hard, pound it, pound the like button, do it now. Anyone who's doing that, anyone who's listening to us, and not just us, but other folks that understand how people want to work most effectively with benefit. People who are listening to that open their minds up to a better understanding of how business works. You can absolutely, and I'm sure a lot of folks that are very successful in business that are listening will say, okay, you can absolutely go and strong arm your way into a deal. And yeah, you got to cutthroat 80s style, go to the top and stay there like Cyndi Lauper. Fine. Yes, you can absolutely be a dick and be very, very successful in business. Yes. But is it the most efficient way of getting what you want? No, it's not. Mutual benefit, people, the average person, not just the average person, every person, whether they're rich or poor or white or black or Mexican, whatever, or Chinese, they want something, because if they didn't want something, they would be dead. Everybody wants something. And if you can give them that something, or at least get them one step closer to that something, their need, because their strong want is a need for them, then you will have a long-term, stable, committed relationship with them until that need wavers or that want changes. Because, for example, we buy more properties out in the Northeast, and we buy properties and we have one tenant, let's say, in this hypothetical, the lease is from us. Leasing. We're buying, they're leasing. But at some point, that tenant says, well, you know what? I want to buy in Alabama. And we say, well, we're not doing that. Do you think they're going to not go to Alabama? Of course they're going to go to Alabama. They want, that's their prerogative. And we'll say, great, do your thing. We have a great thing going on here. You're doing another thing over there. That's fine. But you see how the need is what drives the direction, then their need. And if we can fulfill that need, or if they can fulfill our need for a tenant in this example, then we're able to form a really solid relationship that works so well, because anything that comes up, you together work towards improving the situation. Any unexpected circumstance, both sides stand to benefit from resolving it. If it's only one side, then the other side's not going to do anything. And then you have problems, because then there's resentment that builds, and et cetera, and all of these other human, very normal emotions happen.
Yeah. I did not talk about the Scotch of the day.
Oh man, you got it.
The Scotch of the day was the same Scotch we had last time. But last time, I thought it sucked. And I'll tell you why I thought it sucked. Because the day before, I had my wisdom teeth pulled.
Ooh.
And on that morning, I thought I was fine when we did the Scotch Money Show. And I was drinking this Australian whiskey that's been elementally matured for 2 years in red wine barrels. And I thought it just tasted like shitty red wine. And that was just my taste buds acting up, because right after that podcast, I was asleep for the rest of the day because I had a high fever. I didn't even know it was coming. I didn't feel it coming. And I was like, why does this whiskey taste like shit? Oh, it's great.
Is it great? You're like, no, it's great. Sorry, guys, for talking crap.
I'm so sorry for talking shit about your whiskey, but it's wonderful now. Do not drink it when you have a fever. It'll screw with your taste buds.
It'll taste like crappy red wine.
Yeah. It's funny. It doesn't even taste like red wine now. Like, it doesn't. There's none of that excessive tannin hit. It's just funny what happens to your taste buds when you're not all that well.
It is. I think that we covered what we wanted to cover. Brian, do you have any last comments on mutually beneficial partnerships, the pros, the cons, what people should expect?
It's just, fear is the mind killer. You can't have a relationship that's based on you thinking that the other person will screw you over. And it's very old school, and it used to work, but what got us here won't get us there. And we have all of the infrastructure, and we live in a community and in a society now that is becoming that no longer respects that kind of behavior. And while it still thrives in certain areas, the trend seems to be that just having mutually beneficial partnerships that aren't based on strong arming or coercion would be the things that would propel us forward, especially here, especially in America.
It's America, the home of the brave, not the home of the biznatches.
What does that even mean?
What? What does that even mean?
Oh, biznatches.
The biznatches. That's what the kids are saying. Listen, I agree. You cannot base it on fear. Fear will kill a personal relationship. Fear will kill a business relationship. Fear is something that if you're living in fear, you're not productive. And if you're trying to manipulate people with fear, it will work short term. And sometimes, in certain circumstances, fear and pressure is effective. But when you're talking about a stable, long-term partnership or relationship, whether that's you and your wife or you and anything, fear isn't going to get you there. It's going to lead to resentment, and it will lead to a devaluing of the other side, which escalates into breaking up partnerships.
Yeah.
Um,
On that light, we need to do another Scotch Money podcast just on fear. We could even talk about the evil Dimitri.
Evil Dimitri, what? Which
Yeah.
evil Dimitri?
The evil Dimitri. The
Which-
Russian evil Dimitri.
Oh shit, that guy. Oh man, evil Dimitri. He's got a big ol'
Yeah.
goatee.
Like he's all good.
Can you imagine if that guy is sitting there in some weird Russian prison and he looks exactly like me but with just like a goatee? I'm like, what the hell? Okay, guys, everyone who's listening, all of our millions of subscribers, smash like, smash the subscribe button, and if you want to hear more, let us know. If you want to comment on our Twitter twats or the Instagrams, or are we on Facebook? Facebooking. If you want to Facebook us, if you want to YouTube or podcast, however the heck you want to get in touch with us, smash the like button, comment, and let us know what you want to hear about. We'll talk about whatever. We have a lot of experience. And on that note, we bid you adieu.